Thank you, GD, and it's a real pleasure joining everybody here. I will share some slides momentarily, but I'm Pushpak Pujari. I'm the founder of Harden, and I could not be more excited to be here sharing my learnings with you. So let me quickly share my screen. Sounds great, GD. I hope my screen is visible. Let's dive into it then. Right. So the topic of this chat today is SaaS Apocalypse, reality or hype, right? And you must have anybody who's reading the news would have seen two very different news headlines over the past couple of months. In mid-January, almost 2 trillion in SaaS market cap was erased because investors lost confidence in SaaS's ability to stay competitive with Claude Code and Opus models coming out. Everybody was talking about token maxing, still are. Obviously, the narrative has slightly changed. Agent swarms, 10x teams, especially if you live in San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I live. It is all hype, and this is what you hear and see on billboards on our highways. Right. And then come late May, which is basically just about over a month ago, Uber came out and publicly shared that they had burned through their entire year's AI budget in just 4 months. And are questioning the ROI and have put in a hard cap of $1,500 per employee per month to use AI tools. And even yesterday, Meta came out and shared that they also have moved away from token maxing and are employing or deploying employee-based cost caps. So which one is true, right? What is happening? What is hype? What is marketing fluff? And what is reality? That is exactly what I will seek to unravel in this presentation. And a bit about me. I'm Pushpak. I'm the founder of Harden. We've been building Harden for the past 1 year. And our focus is on building the most advanced AI agents for security and governance, purpose-built for AI-generated code and applications. Before this company, I have been building and shipping enterprise products at a startup called Verkada, at Amazon Alexa, Amazon AGI, as it's called now, AWS IoT, and previously at Sony. I'm a Wharton MBA, and I'm an electrical engineering undergrad candidate from IIT Delhi. And when I'm not blabbering about AI or boring how important security is for all of us, I am trying craft whiskey, craft beers, finding the next running trails, and the next travel destination. So today's agenda is pretty straightforward. I'll spend a bit of time talking about what is real, what am I seeing from my conversations with different enterprises out there. I'll share some of the hype that is also prevalent and talk about what are the moats that exist today, right? What is gravitating towards being moats for an enterprise. Then we'll talk more about how to protect these moats and stop them from becoming minefields. And then I'll share some of the lessons from being in the trenches, working closely with a bunch of Fortune 50 companies. And we'll leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So let's dive into it. Okay, so the first fact, and this is the foundational reality that a lot of future slides are based on, is that coding has become cheap, right? It has become significantly easier and cheaper to generate code across different kind of languages. And this, directly or indirectly, has led to many downstream effects. Number one is that enterprise AI is, in fact, accelerating. There are plenty of big numbers on this slide, but they're all true. They're all from selective surveys done by reputed organizations. 88% of organizations now use AI in at least one business function. 89% of CIOs plan on increasing AI spending. 62% of organizations are piloting or scaling agents. And even half of the CXOs say that their job's at risk if their AI efforts fail. And this is the most important one, right? 35%, or even like almost one third of companies have already replaced a SaaS tool with an internal build. And so the conversation has really shifted from should we use AI? It has become more centered on the economics of using AI, and if this is real or just a fad. The second reality is that agents are here, and thanks to agents, agents have inverted SaaS pricing. It used to be that SaaS was priced on a seat basis, right? So ARR was number of seats into the price per seat per month, multiply by 12, you get a projection of annual recurring revenue. But agents simply broke it. And there are a couple of reasons why, right? Agents do the task directly. And so there is no need for them to have a per seat pricing. And so they push the pricing to a more tangible outcome, which is outcomes, work done, and then the tokens consumed. Second, agents also took over the keyboard, right? Because code got cheaper to build, the customer's own team is now always contemplating on being able to rebuild the tool themselves. So the build versus buy decision, or the pendulum rather, that SaaS made heavily towards buy has now recentered, and then every single renewal or conversation is now on what is the value of me buying this tool versus can I just try to build it in-house. And there's a famous example of Klarna trying to replace Salesforce internally. And there are a few others we'll talk later in the slide as well. So ultimately, the detail that matters most is that the moat shifted from raw code to proprietary data assets and compliance architectures, right? And that's the thing that I want you to take over or take away from this slide. It is that when the code gets free, data and compliance architecture become key. And those, excuse me, and those are two of the three modes of the agentic era, and then we'll talk about them in a few slides down the line. And then the third reality, which is it's a fact, right, is that Fortune 50s are indeed replacing their internal SaaS. This is definitely happening. It is not tabloid news or hype. It is really happening. And we, as Harden, have seen that very closely as we have worked across our customer base. And here are some examples, and we'll go through them in a later part of the presentation as well. But we have seen Fortune 50 companies take on extremely ambitious projects, like replacing their contract lifecycle management tool with an in-house build, taking on Qualtrics and SurveyMonkey with an internal enterprise survey tool, replacing or building agents for private pricing and discounting via a deal desk function. Taking on building expense management and HRMS tools, project tracking, and even going and building voice native sales apps to help their sales team close more deals and get more company context while they're on the road. And these were not prototypes. These were really production grade replacements of multi-million-dollar SaaS contracts. So this is definitely in the realm of reality. So just to recap, right, code became cheaper to write. And because of that, the biggest change that has happened is, can we build it is no longer a question. What is worth building and how do we ship fast has become the pivotal questions that every leader is asking. And this is an exact quote from one of our CIO partners that we work with. The CIO said that our engineers can build internal alternatives to expensive SaaS contracts in just weeks, right? That part is solved. We need a way to actually take the app to production. And so brings us to the second part of the presentation, which is it is not about the code anymore. It is about the approval, and approvals have become the bottleneck. So we talked about reality. Now let's talk about the hype. My favorite one is agents is all you need because they will come and do everything for you. I wish they could wash my dishes and do my laundry. Not there yet. But let's go deep into what exactly is the hype that I'm seeing in talking to our customers. Well, let's take a step back first. Let's talk about what SaaS Apocalypse really means and what are its foundations. So the core premise is that, again, code is free now, right? It's free, right? And agents can write hours or do hours of work what vendors have spent traditionally months or even years building. And agent-centric UX is just more efficient than human-centric UX because they don't need to see, they have a faster response time. And so the products that have been existing today, UI-centric, don't make sense in the world of agents. So there are companies trying to completely redesign agent-centric UI and how do you get agents to work in parallel in swarms to accomplish the same task faster, cheaper, and better. And because of all of this, renewals become build decisions. And what we end up having is a SaaS graveyard. Then the vendor list sinks completely. So this, from first principles, sounds legit, right? I mean, if the agent can really write integration, why pay for the tool in the first place? So that checks out. But is it really true? Right? It turns out that Hugging Face actually did an experiment. So they graded 1,000 real Cloud Code and Codex runs. And in one case, they used an agent-optimized CLI tool. And the other one, they just let the agents use raw APIs calls. Right. And again, the premise being that all you need today is just agents and APIs, and they will build everything because code is free. Right. So when Hugging Face ran that experiment, they found that even with the same model and the same tasks, when an agent was using an agent optimized CLI, it had a 94% task success rate. But then when they were using the raw APIs and rebuilding the scaffolding with them along as they went along, they were using more than 6x tokens and had a drop in the success rate. Now that's pretty interesting, right? The agents can build everything. They can, but does it really make sense for them to do it? It could, but just that it makes it pay 6x more and worse or degradation in the quality. So that's just one layer on using tool calls. Now imagine rebuilding every single layer of the agentic stack, hosting, versioning, distribution. That just adds so much more complexity and also increases the token consumption and will bring a bigger drop in the task success rate. So basically, hold this in your mind, right? It's the difference between using optimized tools versus raw tools is a big drop in performance and increase in token usage. And essentially, what we land up with is this understanding that good software is really cached intelligence. This is Clem from Hugging Face saying it, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. Right? Abstractions are leverage. If you get agents to reinvent the wheel every single time, it is just not efficient. And today, when everybody is complaining a lot about the cost of tokens increasing and enterprises going so far as saying that we shall not use Claude because the pricing is unpredictable, it just begets the question on how do you bring in efficiency while getting your agents to work at their best, right? So a good tool really is, think about it as prepaid reasoning. It has auth, retries, pagination, rate limits, states, exceptions, and thousands of decisions that the agent never re-reasons, right? Agents gravitate to whatever is cheap and accurate to drive. And the enterprise deployments actually agree with this particular assessment. So the test or the question to ask has flipped from can a competitor copy this to is using your tool cheaper than rederiving it? code definitely fails the new test, but the workflows and cached intelligence, and the context that an organization has passes it. So just to recap this slide, the value was never in the code in the first place. It was always above the code. And as the moats moved above the code, we have figured out, or we are learning that context, permissioned actions, and the learning loop ultimately become the new moats. Context is bigger than data. Contracts, account history, pricing exceptions, policy, process tables. This is the data. You can think of data as a raw material, but context is the usable asset, right? Even like Snowflake recently had a bunch of announcements where they have internal agents that help their CXO teams prep for the earnings call. And there's another agent that tracks accounts deviating from a projected spend and drafts outreach automatically. So data sitting in a warehouse is basically potential energy. The context that your agents can safely act on is actually the moat. The second moat is permissioned actions, which is rights. What is the agent only allowed to do? And so the agent that can write code is common. What the app if you let the app or the agent touch CRM, your CPQ, finance, HR tools, the moat has to become what permissions or rights does this agent have to run automations or actions on your behalf. A model today can generate the app, but it just cannot and should not grant itself the right to finance or read tables that are confidential and not needed by it. The third moat becomes the learning loop, which is how fast you're able to compound. Velocity alone is not a moat. Anybody can prototype now, right? And adoption alone is not a moat because teams can adopt chaos and pretend to move fast. So the moat really becomes following this loop of building, approving, deploying, observing closely, seeing what works, what doesn't work, improving it, and reusing this pattern across teams and organizations. And really, bring your own SaaS cannot have a positive ROI without context, permissioned actions, and learning loop in place. So now that we've established that the new moats of the agentic era are context, permissions, actions, or rights, and loops, it becomes very important for an enterprise to actually protect them and prevent them from becoming minefields. Because ultimately, what is the most dearest for an enterprise is exactly what an attacker also wants. And so how do we do it? Right. First of all, anybody who's been reading the news has probably seen a bunch of attacks or hacks that have happened in the past 1 year. From high-profile ones like McKinsey's chatbot being hacked, EchoLeak, where there was no clicks done, but there was silent exfiltration of SharePoint, Teams, and emails done from Microsoft. McDonald's chatbot leaking secrets, GitHub leaking secrets, Air Canada, NYC, Meta, and the list goes on and on, right? And in all of these cases, the agents were actually in production, right? And let's be honest, these companies are great companies. They did not lack the talent when it came to building the app or deploying it. What was missing was ultimately security and governance that is needed to secure these new age agentic apps. Which brings us to the Four Horsemen, which is the four threats that every enterprise needs to be aware of or thinking of actively as they are letting their agents run on their data. The first is runaway cost, insecure code, the silent breach, which is runtime security, and permissions and rights. So let's go into each of them in detail over the next few slides. Horseman number one is the runaway bill, right? And the funny thing is, there's a Gion's paradox. It says that as the unit cost of token actually falls, the total enterprise spend rises steeply. It's just counterintuitive, but it's true. Here are a few examples, right? Obviously, Meta is very famous for having these token maxing leaderboards internally, where one user supposedly burned through 281 billion tokens in just 30 days and spent $1.4 million of Meta's trillions in cash, I guess. That was one. And then Uber had something similar where they burned through their AI budget in just 4 months. And the funny thing is, or not surprising, I guess, 86% of CFOs today cannot report a clear return on ROI, return on AI spend. And that has led to now enterprises pulling back from token maxing and focusing on implementing hard token budgets and doing AI FinOps, killing the AI gamified leaderboards, implementing cost caps per AI and chargebacks that finance can see without asking. And ultimately, the reason this is important in our grand story is because runaway bill kills the learning loop. It's because the CFOs see that this is not something that is economically viable for the business to continue and pull the plug, thereby taking away all innovation and the benefits that come from using AI internally. So token maxing created max bills, and now cost governance has become top of mind for any CXO and CIO out there. Horseman 2 is a vulnerable code generation problem. It turns out that 45% of all AI generated apps today ship with an OWASP top 10 flaw. And this number has funnily held steady over model generations, right? As the models have become easier, better, they have definitely become better at writing code faster in different languages. But the vulnerability rate has not dropped. It's because the code has been, or these coding models have been optimized in writing more and better code, but not secure code. And it turns out that there's the code that is being written by your Cloud Code, Codex, Kiro, Lovable, Emergent, Cursor, what have you, contain more high severity bugs than you would have thought, right? And at a Fortune 50 scale, the volume of people who are using these to build apps and vulnerabilities just creates a dam or breaks a dam when it comes to securing these applications or deploying them securely. And we found that there are 10,000 new findings per month by mid-2026, which is almost a 10x jump in just 6 months. So AI is definitely getting better at writing code, but not secure code as of today. The third is being runtime security or being hacked at runtime. It turns out that clean code is not enough. The app that your agent built needs to be secured, and the agents get attacked while the app is running is a phenomena that has only become true because of agentic apps. And the examples that we talked about, McKinsey's chatbot leak was a classic prompt injection attack, where an outside agent prompt injected its way into read-write access and was able to exfiltrate 46.5 million chat messages, 728,000 files, and every governing prompt that McKinsey was using. And if you think about it, prompt and context has become the secret sauce, not code. And so that leaking is a massive security breach, right? Similarly, with EchoLeak that happened in June last year, thanks to prompt injection and one email, without any clicks, the the attackers were silently able to exfiltrate SharePoint, Teams, and mail content. And there was nothing that a user even had to do because the secret or like the instructions on exfiltration were in an email that the model unfortunately read. And same happened with Claude, where then the prompt hidden deep in a code file read an API keys from environment file and leaked them through DNS lookups through an attacker domain. So the pattern is very clear and replicable, right? It is prompt injection combined with the overbroad permissions and unconstrained egress that comes together and creates the scenarios for runtime attack. And this really doesn't need any bugs to be in the code. In fact, these are not bugs as such, right? All the attacker needs really is a ability to inject a sentence in something that your agent will access, which could be a tool, which could be an email, which could be a website that the agent goes and tries to scrape. And controls for this simply don't exist at a scale where they should. And the fourth horseman is is shadow AI, or basically the app nobody approved is already live, right? And just to be clear, shadow AI is not a prototype that is running on somebody's laptop. It is running in production, and this app is touching real systems. This is a quote that one of our customers from a Fortune 50 company gave me, which is a support team's AI tool. They discovered that a support team's AI tool had write access to production customer table, and it had been there for months before anyone looked at that, and was able to pin together the connection of what this support team's AI tool could actually reach. And this is not the only example, right? Today, 78% of leaders are saying that AI adoption is outpacing their ability to manage the risk. And shadow AI has kept IT leaders up trying to control shut down everything because I don't know what's going on, versus being able to give broad permissions to everybody, but then living with the risk of massive data exfiltration. Where is the boundary? Where is the sweet spot? So the key learning is that the apps do build themselves today now, but they don't build the cost, security, and the governance scaffolding around it. And even if they do, they should not be trusted because, as we've discussed, they write vulnerable code in the first place and are not the best judges when it comes to writing secure code. So how do we fight the four horsemen, right? The answer is very simply, don't trust and verify everything, right? So don't trust the code. You need to verify every single code that is being generated with evidence-bound scanning. And we found that just a classic SaaS is not efficient or is not valuable anymore. You need to augment it with a higher quality Pentest-grade scan that can find exploits or potential exploits in the app without actually running it, and is able to find exploit chains that classic SaaS tools today or static code analysis tools simply fail to see. The second thing is don't trust the supply chain. You need to verify provenance. And we'll talk more about this in a future slide. And then the third is don't trust the running agent. Verify every action at runtime. You need to govern and control every action with identity, control egress, and also enforce the permission graph from the very beginning throughout the journey of the AI agent lifecycle. We talk about the verify the code, Pentest-grade security, Pentest-grade security reasoning. The idea is just analyzing code as a dumb pattern matching mechanism. That's what SaaS is not working in the age of AI today. So the next evolution is being able to create a graph of what the code is doing, what are the different entry points into the code, and reason over it to find exploits. Then use another swarm of agents to hunt adversarially to prove each one of the findings wrong. and doing that all without executing the app itself. The idea is you need to model the code and not just read code. So you need to model what the entry points are, what the trust boundaries are, what the taint flows are, and they all become queryable entry points into your code. Then you need to have a swarm of AI agents hunt on a leash, where the adversarial agents now are on audit missions for missing auth, IDOR, cross-tenant leaks, and the AI acts only through allowed listed graph queries. And the adversarial component becomes very important because now the shadow AI tries to disprove every finding that the first swarm of agents did, and ultimately leads to almost like a simulation of what an actual pen test would look like, but all without running code. And the shift here is, instead of asking any security tool that you're using, you should ask where does your AI actually get its evidence, and when and how do you try to refute it? And it has become today's become very, very important to secure your supply chain, because because let's be honest, supply chain is getting weaponized, right? There were a bunch of high profile leaks in 2018. There was an event stream vulnerability where one maintainer handoff led to vulnerabilities being injected. And then the attackers waited for years before mainstream adoption of this package, before unleashing their fix that would not fix, unleashing their hack that led to stealing of millions of crypto tokens, and stealing crypto, millions of dollars worth of crypto. Last year, 18 NPM packages were compromised because the attackers were able to hijack these packages by phishing one maintainer. And Team PCP, which is a rogue team of hackers, have gone and deliberately poisoned 500 plus popular packages that most code today relies on. Right, and they have poisoned even security tools like Trivi, Checkmarx infra, and wrote Trivi's credentials into Light LLM, and have well documented victims such as GitHub, OpenAI, and even the European Commission. So what you need to do is track the software bomb and the AI bomb per app, pin the dependencies, enforce age-gated updates, and verify provenance, not just look up the CVEs that are contained in these packages, and enforce short-lived credentials everywhere. The key learning is, at the point it hits the machine, it's already too late. You need to implement this before the attackers even get in or have access to your code. The third horseman is the way to prevent is implementing an AI firewall. A dumb web application firewall just does pattern matching. What you need is an AI firewall that goes beyond just code and syntax and goes into the semantic layer and is able to identify intent, identity, and actions and cross-reference between them. So the AI firewall becomes a gatekeeper between anything that the agent can read and access and any tool that it can use, and your core enterprise context, which is data that is sitting in CRMs, finance, data warehouses, etc. The AI firewall looks through everything and only allows access to tools, ingress or egress that match the profile set up for identity, egress, cost, and audit for an enterprise. The two questions that become very important in every pitch is, can you govern actions with identity, and does build time posture actually drive runtime policy? And I guess to end this section, I want to reiterate that Formula One drivers do not win their races by driving very fast in the straights. They win by making the perfect turn at the corners, right? And that's where using breaking becomes very important. So it might feel like security and governance are brakes that slow down innovation, but the data actually says the opposite. Databricks found that companies that had implemented AI governance practice and policies in place saw 12x more AI projects being pushed to production. And that's exactly what Harden also enables. We build a fleet of AI agents to do for security and governance, with the focus on doing the AI scanning, where we do Pentest-grade exploit reasoning even before the code is run. We auto-fix the issues that we find using AI, and we implement an AI firewall that protects your app during runtime from both ingress and egress attacks. Harden helps enterprises turn moats into compounding advantage. And the next natural question is, well, that's great. So what are we seeing from the trenches? How is Harden actually helping enterprises? Let me give you a few examples. The first one is our engagement or our conversation with a Fortune 50 company that have built their own contract lifecycle management tool internally. They had seen a bunch of demos from AI native contract lifecycle management vendors, and figured that they could build the same capabilities in-house thanks to access to tools like Cloud Code and Cursor and Codex. And they were also very close to the business team because they had access to or in understanding of how the business teams were using these tools in the first place. So building the app was easy for them. They spent 8 cycles or 8 weeks or 4 months in building the app. But then once the app was built, the auditors and the security team stopped them because this app was critical, right? It was reading or accessing every contract that the company holds. And imagine if all of these contracts leak, it would be catastrophic for any company. And so now the auditors demanded proof on if the app is implementing the best practices, what is the proof that this app is only seeing what it's supposed to see, and where does the data flow happen, where does the data go. And really, this app was working meant nothing without giving the auditors the evidence to prove all of these questions. And that's where Harden comes in. Remember that the team that built this app was not a technical team. It was a semi-technical team of a few subject matter experts with somebody who had the basic coding chops. So they were also not able to give the answers to the auditors very easily. And so that's where Harden came in and jumped. We took their code base that was sitting in their GitLab and were able to run advanced AI, our entire suite of scanning. And our advanced AI scans found 2 exploit chains. We auto-fixed them, we auto-fixed the vulnerabilities, and it was merged in days. And we were able to implement runtime policy, attached scope access, egress controls, audit, and cost caps, all of which met every single thing that auditors were looking for. And the result being that the app was shipped into production just a week after we came in, passed security review in the second attempt, first with us. And the evidence pack that we were able to create became the rails on which every future app of the company is being built to take it from prototype to production internally. Another example is of a very different application. A different Fortune 100 company was trying to augment their deal desk team, and basically the GTM ops had built pricing and approvals coding agent that would help the deal desk team approve contracts and discounts faster. Again, building the app was never the challenge. The GTM ops team had built this capability in just a few weeks, but then when the security teams ask the questions on what stops this app from auto approving a discount on its own, nobody could answer. Right? We also found that there was a service account that could commit margin with no human in the loop and no record of who or what had approved it. So you definitely cannot let an agent like that run in your enterprise that is touching such critical company data. That's where we came in. We were able to create an in-depth capability map that answered the CISO's questions route by route. What the app feeds, what it can write, what it sends where, right? And then we rebuilt its identity to match the job so that the agent only reads on pricing and CRM, does not have a standard right to billing, and always improved a human approval gate for any discount over thresholds. And this was all enforced at the AI firewall level, not in the app code, because in the future, somebody might just comment it out and ship the same code. So abstracting these rules or this implementation of the enterprise governance policies cannot be trusted to be in the app itself. And because of and with our help, the GTM ops team was able to ship the app in just 3 days after being stalled for more than 2 months, and was able to tie every action to a session identity. And access to view went from a spreadsheet hunt to a one-page export. That's it. Another example was where somebody tried to replace an internal Kanban board or a project management tool, right? Building this is pretty easy. I'm sure people in this audience have at least tried their hand at building something similar. The issue that we found in this case was of an unrelated review, where an unauthenticated plain text logs. We found that there was a actually the challenge here was not that the app did not work. It was never sanctioned to be there, right? And so this was discovered by accident during a surprise or an unrelated investigation, right? This is basically an ops manager work over the weekend, which was now being used across 4 departments, and they were happily using it, but the security and the CISO team had no idea that this was even in existence. And so now, once the discovery of this app was found, once the app was discovered, the CISO team was in a dilemma, which is like, should we just kill the app because it is unauthorized? But then there are 4 teams that are actually using it, and they're very happy with it. So, do you want to take away productivity and gains from these teams just to keep a safe security posture? And that's where we came in and helped clear some of that dilemma. We scanned the app completely through our process. We found no auth being implemented. We found IDORs. We found departments. We auto-fixed it by wrapping it with a single sign-on, implemented fine-grained rule-based access controls, scoped storage, enforced logging, and added egress controls at runtime and cost caps. And best of all, we're able to generate the evidence of all of this with one click so that the auditors were quickly able to get their questions answered without having to read every single line of code. And with this, we were able to get the app in governed production for the entire organization, actually, in just 4 days. And this created the framework needed to discover and approve other shadow AI tools that were also running in the company that the security team had no idea about. And the organization found that by putting this framework in place, shadow AI apps get self-reported by the teams and get through the audit and governed production, thereby keeping the enterprise data secure without slowing down innovation and speed at which teams move. And I will do one last one on on an expense management tool. The idea was, with tools like Gemini and multimodal capabilities, reading receipts has become so easy. So why do I need to spend millions of dollars into using a very sluggish tool that nobody wants to use? So one of our customers actually built their own expense management or reimbursement tool from the ground up. And the challenge was this is touching sensitive data, right? The apps that were built were stalled at the pilot door because these apps did not have the right audit controls and the data controls in place. And fixing those by filing 300 tickets, again, 3 different code bases, was not going to happen easily. And so that's where we jumped in. We remediated the fixes as artifacts, not just source code changes and artifact level changes, not just findings. We were able to integrate the app with the IDP, enforce RBAC, enforce secrets management so that PI doesn't leak, audit logging, and did an explicit PII redaction so that employees' information and where they are dining or consuming or doing in their free time doesn't get exposed to everybody in the company. We were able to fix 180 risks that were flagged in this app and were able to merge the app into production. So today, the expense manager is live and is being scaled from a 10-user pilot to more than 2,000 people using it within the organization. And the security review effort was down by 70% for the 2 apps down the line. So at the very end, I promise I will not bore you for for much longer, but just to summarize what we've learned so far, right? Moats have shifted, and the moats have become context, permissioned actions, and the learning loop. And an enterprise needs to protect these moats dearly in the age of AI. So we know that the reality is that the cost of writing code has collapsed tremendously. 42% of code is being written by AI, and this is happening today. And Fortune 50 companies are replacing SaaS in production. But the hype side of things is the apocalypse. The agents, just agents and APIs being able to build everything you don't need for SaaS anymore. That is not true. You still need an optimization layer. You need the value. Good tools help agents do jobs more efficiently. And so efficiency is very, very important, which cannot be overlooked at all. So right now, the focus is on getting enterprises to protect and build on top of the moats. And the missing gap in all of this is security and governance, so that the critical moats are not lost to the Four Horsemen. And that's it. Thank you for enduring with me for almost 50 minutes now. You can find me, scan this QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect and answer any questions that you might have right now or even offline.